This is the story of Altis in 1974. The communist takeover, the resulting naval battles between NATO and Warsaw Pact forces, and its eventual recapture by the British. In this episode, NATO becomes increasingly concerned by reports of Soviet support to communist insurgents on Altis. The islands that would become the Republic of Altis and Stratis have known conflict from the early 20th century until modern times. Historians of Altis and Stratis tend to focus on events on land. But locals know they live on islands. They are surrounded and their lives are dominated by thalassa, the sea. And they know that control of the islands inevitably falls to those who exercise thalassokratia. Sea power. Every story has a start and an end. The real questions are where to start and where to end and why. Our story starts on Saturday the 30th of March 1974 with two pieces of paper lying side by side on a desk. The desk belongs to a young Royal Navy sub-lieutenant in his first posting. As the most junior member of the N2 cell at Northwood Headquarters, home to Sinkiesland, or Commander-in-Chief, Eastern Atlantic Area, the central command of all NATO maritime forces. For reasons of security, he must remain nameless. Having just spent the busiest 6 months of his life monitoring the October 1973 Arab-Israeli War and its aftermath, he is enjoying some quiet time on a Saturday morning. Doing of all things, filing. Last thing yesterday, he received from Registry a new file with the requested title Altis, 1974. Then all morning, he carefully date-ordered the stack of loose reports from the past 3 months. Wrote the folio number in the top right-hand corner of each page in black ink. Wrote a short description of the document's contents on the inner left cover of the file. Stamped a single hole in the upper left corner of each document. And by placing the document so the hole lined up with the metal fastener, filed it. Document after document. All morning. He was just about to close the file and go to lunch. But something niggled at his brain. Something he had read. In time, he would learn that this feeling of vague unease, this instinct when something just did not feel right, was one of the differences between a good and a great N2. So he took the two documents off the file and laid them side by side. Scratching his head, he walked over to look at a map on the wall. It is early 1974, and NATO forces are heavily committed in the Eastern Mediterranean. Monitoring the aftermath of the October 1973 Arab-Israeli conflict, preparing to clear the Suez Canal, and monitoring the deteriorating security situation in Cyprus. The Soviets have lost access to the Egyptian naval base at Alexandria as part of a general realignment of Egypt towards America and away from Soviet interests. As a result, the Soviets are making arrangements to access the Syrian naval base at Tartus. process that involves considerable logistics effort. Soviet rebasing has led to a significant uptick in Soviet naval presence in the area. Warships, auxiliaries, merchant ships, and aircraft of various kinds, and even Soviet submarines. All of which means there are few NATO reconnaissance or surveillance assets in theatre that do not already have their hands full. The airbase on Altis is used occasionally to support surveillance flights by maritime patrol aircraft shadowing the Soviet fleet movements. But no aircraft are permanently stationed there at present. Altis itself has been a British protectorate since 1915. Over the course of 1973 and early 1974, the colonial administration has been managing a gradually escalating communist insurgency on the island. There are suspicions that the Soviets are directly supporting the insurgents. But to what end? He looked again at the first report. The report summarised a surveillance operation by the Royal Altis Military Police. The operation was aimed at catching smugglers trying to evade customs duties. But instead, they detected a Soviet merchant vessel anchored off Altis. The sub-lieutenant closed his eyes and imagined the scene.
Track 7003 is classified. Neutral merchant. Ahead full. Maneuvering eye. Ahead 1/3. All stop. Maneuvering eye.
The vessel's master cooperated with local authorities. And provided them with an explanation for the ship's presence in Altis waters. While the military police did not find any actual evidence of smuggling, the report suggested that the insurgents are being supplied by sea with small arms and ammunition of Soviet manufacture. As are most insurgencies in the region. But the report also suggested this supply was coming directly from Soviet sources and being smuggled by Soviet freighters. Then he turned to the second report. This report told of another Royal Altis military police operation some weeks later, executing a search warrant on a property in the town of Sirta. 3 armed men killed, 2 of them known to be associated with the insurgency, and a cache of Soviet arms discovered, likely to have been smuggled recently and not yet used. Again, he closed his eyes and imagined the scene. This report suggested that recently smuggled Soviet weapons are significantly increasing communist insurgent capability. If unchecked, the communists could overwhelm local police and military forces and take over the islands of Altis and Stratis. If the Soviets get a foothold on Altis, it could put the port of Pyrgos and the airbase at risk, and Joint Air Radar Station Mike 26 on Stratis. NATO needs to check these rumours. A communist takeover of Altis and Stratis could signal a change in the balance of sea power in the North Aegean. At Northwood headquarters, NATO planners cannot help. The British colonial administration has a number of assets in Altis monitoring events on land. But what with the recent escalation in the insurgency and a series of violent incidents, our man in Pyrgos cannot venture much further west than the airport. The Royal Altis military police won't go west either. Even the local military units are on the defensive. And all available maritime reconnaissance assets are already overtasked in the eastern Mediterranean monitoring the Soviet fleet. A smiling American in civilian clothing listens carefully to the problem. Then he makes a suggestion involving an old friend. In the next episode, NATO is concerned by reports of Soviet support to communist insurgents on Altis, and with no other assets available, a familiar face is asked to investigate. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. And stay tuned for the next episode.